Touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
All praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe. This is Nasi Yashuv-EL of Shomrei HaTorah in Atlanta. And if I'm not reading my Torah or suplexing some false deity, I'm listening to my man, Sal Showtime, and Debate Talk for You Radio. Beautiful. Keep doing the good work, brother, bringing forth the information and spreading that love. Brother B.A. Ben Abraham, and I'm your host of the Man Up segment on Debate Talk for You platform. The objective is for all brothers from different walks of life to come together, link up, and build on matters concerning all various stages of life. If anyone would like to reach out on concepts and ideas, you can reach Brother B.A. at radicalrhyme1984@gmail.com. Again, radicalrhyme1984@gmail.com. Tap in. Let's build. Shalom. Shalom.
I'm blessed. The Most High is excellent, man. It's good to be back on a show that, once started the many platforms a long time ago, just putting a lot of brothers on the map. And I can remember years ago being on this platform, and it's good to be back here.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming on, and I know you're a busy brother. Let the people know what kind of things you got going on lately, what's been happening with you. A lot of people have been wondering what's going on with Nasi. Let the family know.
Kane, definitely. Well, I've been putting in work. I see a lot of debating and talking going on, but the biggest aspect of what I'm doing is we've created a community called Goshen, and we purchased 140 acres in Georgia, and we're building a Hebrew Israelite community, having a place of development, creating a museum for our elders, and a place of refuge for people who need help or people who want to seek spirituality and unity and the harmonious aspect of doing the Torah. Because in truth, the Torah is only done inside of a community, and when we're not in communities, we are subjected to the social control of the environment that's around us. So that's my most important thing that I'm doing, because I don't believe in doing law and sending your children or being directly in the midst of the Gentiles and acting like it doesn't have an influence upon them. So that's my major project at this moment. And on the land, we're beginning to grow our own crops, grow our own food, and build our own house, and things like this is very important and empowering for our children, because our children now, they advertently and inadvertently begin to develop trades. So now whether they get a job in that area, they still have the skills and the mindset to produce in that area. And that's something that's very important and part of our culture, to pass down an inheritance of the ability to work inside of our community and work for our community. And this is why we're so excited about this project.
All right, once again, family, we have special guest Nasi Yashuv-EL right here on Debate Talk Free Radio. Again, that number is 319-527-6239. Remember, make sure you call in, and when you call in, you can press number 1 later on, and we open up the phone lines for the family. And you brought up a very interesting topic here, so I'm going to let you, speak on it. Everybody else, take your notes. I always say take your notes. Make sure you write your notes down, and make sure you call in. All right, Nasi, take it away.
Kane, Sal, can you hear me? Do I sound clear?
You loud and clear. You good?
Hallelujah. All praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe, Yah, our forefathers, Yah, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Thanking the Heavenly Father for blessing us and allowing us to make it here this evening and do something prosperous towards His nation. If anybody knows much about me, I'm Nasi Yashuv-EL. Used to be a heavy debater on the platforms. But right now I'm focused on developing our community and also aspects of spiritual development. So if you're looking for words of upliftment, log on to my YouTube channel, Spiritual Development Channel, and you will get lots of information that you probably never even heard before, but it's actually something that's empowering and things that you can utilize in your life. And today I want to talk about the dichotomization of the Western thought, And I know these words sound sometimes big, but die is to, cotomize is just basically splitting splitting it into two. This is how the European survives. And it's not the European, not just the European, the Western mindset, because the Torah is a place for all people, you know. And the Most High definitely has a special place for all those who strive for him, no matter what race, creed, color, nation, or nationality. But, you know, as a young man traveling this world in this life journey, my feet have walked as many diverse paths as my eyes have observed in the numerous faces. And, you know, I appeared into the souls of many to unravel the mysteries behind the gaze, their gaze. And in my scrutiny, I discovered that many people don't even attempt to disguise their feelings anymore. The world has become so distressed. People in constant turmoil, struggling, dealing with situations. Some people driven by anxiety, while others charged with untamed emotions argue over cell phones in public places. We've seen this before. We see the world is very chaotic now, based on arguments that only scratch the surface on core issues. And they're fueled by winning these conversations and not actually truth. And we can see this even in the debates that we do today. I slowly began to become empathetic to the suffering of others, and so much so that I become them to understand them. And that's what makes me different than many of the people that you see out there, is my empathy. I put myself in the position of those to inspire them and also to become them and understand their suffering. And this is just part of my life. But the question sometimes is, why does emptiness hurt, regret, anger, and misery? Why do we accept this as the social norm? When you explore the reasons behind normalized social deviances, the onus rests on families, on the educational system, and rejected the notion of biblical writings or external stories. Like we don't internalize these scriptures. We don't see them as being something that's internalized as part of our lives. We just see them as separate entities and not a part of us and who we are. And for us to explore these things, we have to realize that there is many psychological origins that lie within the scriptures, because the scriptures deal with patterns of the Bible. And this is important for us to understand. You know, primarily, let us understand that the most obvious offender is an inadequate education system. This is an obvious offender to what we're going through in life, of this misery and pain. Perfect example. Why doesn't our system teach relationships 101? Why doesn't education teach relationships? This is so part of the basic foundation of fundamentals that we have to have as individuals, is learn how to carry and to understand and to have healthy relationships. But there was no classes that produced this in school and education, because everything is based off of logic and empirical data and scientific platforms. Why doesn't our school system prepare our young daughters for birth? They give you a sexual education and let you understand what happens when you have sex, but they don't give you the understanding of the emotions and the trials and the tribulations that you go through while you're pregnant and before you even choose a mate through intellectual mate selection. The system is not built for us to survive. It doesn't tackle the basic issues. And this is something that we have to realize as a people. We can think about this world and this universe as being something that's detached from us. And I like to speak, and I speak to the heart of many, because most of us are struggling. Everybody on this phone, if it's 4, if it's 5, if it's 6, I really don't care, because there are an elite group of people that need to be touched in the heart and the soul. A lot of us in our debates and our quarrels with one another, we use these platforms to feed our ego when there's an insecurity that's deep down inside of us that causes us to feel like an individual, but it's only a temporary feeling because it's based off of emotions. It does not supported by any form of logic and any foundation to real keys of happiness. Our real keys of happiness is based and predicated on us as a family. So when our major platforms are dealing with discussions and don't have a universal aspect to deal with certain situations, all it does is spread diversity and creates a bigger divide in our community. If we look at the Hebrew word servant, it is the word eved. And if you look at it from a pictograph form, early Proto-Canaanite writings, you start to see that the ayin represents the eye in observation, the bait represents the house, someone is observing the house, and the door represents departure or in and out or someone leaving. So the initial understanding of a servant in the Hebrew scriptures is someone who leaves their family. So when we create this dichotomy or this separation from our family, we begin to spiral in the world of misery because our true happiness lies in the venom and the same punishment that we are trying to get away from. And I say this because in our lives we're built up with so much shame. If you think about your lives and all the things that you do, there's a deep down shame that's in your subconscious that's so subtle, but it still resonates because it allows you to be misery and not find happiness no matter how many people you tear down, no matter how many people you try to prove you're better than. There's still this separation from our family that hurts us. There's still this identity that we feel that we have or we need as a group of people, but we truly don't have. So there's a deep down desire that destroys us. I want everybody for a second to close their eyes and take a deep breath and try to become in harmony with the surroundings and leave all of life's chaos behind, all your hurt, all your bad decisions. Rest, relax, let it all go. Think of all the distorted sounds that you may naturally block out, like vehicles, horns, music from afar, trains, planes, phones. Block them all out and let them go. Even when you think you're getting peace, at times you're not, because there's always a distortion in the world. Smile. Give me a smile. But notice the natural resistance not to smile. And why is that? Smile a little longer until it feels no longer forced. Do it till you find that happiness within you. Let's look for this happiness. When you find this happiness and you see that is no longer forced, enjoy it and become familiar with the feeling. Imagine oneness with Yah like a nursling. Imagine that oneness with the Creator. Come on, y'all. Dig deep down inside. Feel it. Now sit and enjoy it for a little bit. Enjoy it. Now, imagine God letting you know that in order to stay in His divine presence, that there is a oneness that He dwells in and communicates in. He's making a covenant with you. He's letting you know that this place that you found just now is where He resides. It is the place of reprogramming. Feel it. And for you to stay away from the tree of knowledge and good and evil, and not to ingest polarization of the mind, accept not opposition, but understand apposition and diurnal harmony. I'll repeat. Love this oneness and stay away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Not to ingest the polarization of the mind. Accept not opposition, but understand apposition and diunidal harmony. Breathe. When you have them thoughts of negative and positive going back and forth, realize that that's the tree. Do not run from it, but understand that that's not what you're going to take in. Breathe. Because the Creator wanted dichotomization to be avoided so much that he placed the serpent as a salesman of this new reality. Now, why did he choose a serpent? Because dichotomization, the polarity of the mind, the good and evil, the ups and downs of your thoughts, is sold to you by a serpent, which is one of the primal fears of humans. This polarity is supposed to place fear in your heart. The reason for the serpent is to play on your primitive predatory senses, causing you to avoid this way of thinking. Even in the creation story, he speaks of harmony and not war. And even chaos is mentioned in his working to manifest the potential to a well-ordered universe. Harmony, not war. You don't see war between the light and the darkness. You see them working harmoniously for humans. This is what you call apposition and not opposition. Like most business, they hit a wall with no room to grow. In order to survive, it's forced to reinvent itself. Everything has to come with hardship. In order to you realize that there is a new manifestation of self that you have to put into the existence of the universe in order for you to establish yourself. If you're spiritual, you cannot complain heavily about the hardship of your life, but realize that the hardship of your life is a roadblock and a sign telling you to reinvent yourself and become someone great. You can look at it as being a negative or save yourself from a spiritual extinction and reinvent yourself with an optimistic mind. Our brains are way more complex than our ancestors because of the dichotomization of our minds, and we look at things more complex instead of the simple stages of life. But we're stuck in a stage where it's being pushed with the inadequate amount of fuel. And we're going to speak about that later. So when you was in that state of peace, remember that you did ingest and let go and brought yourself back into a place of polarity. So now the original man has fallen to a genetically inferior species and is taking crafty counsel. And just like the serpent, a perfect trap is created, a system that despiritualizes its victims by creating an illusion of free will, leaving the cause without immediate effect. So now because we do something, we don't see an immediate effect, we are more prone to our ability to choose whether the choice has a long-term beneficial aspect of our lives or not. We will choose based off of our feelings and not giving the balance of emotion. And this is reinforced with the rhetorical ethics and reaffirmed through soft power. And what do I mean by rhetorical ethics? Rhetorical ethics is something that America and the European and westernized thoughts practice. Things that they tell you that seems good for you, but they really don't believe it themselves, but it makes you a servant to their system. To love all. To accept homosexuality, not to chastise your children. All of these things are rhetorical ethics that they know will destroy a spiritual people. and not the physical man. But the problem with westernized and American arts is its culture is saturated in its politics. And what do I mean by that? America gives you the ability to think that you have the ability to have free will, but in truth, their culture, their music, their televisions already place their politics in your mind. So when you do make a decision, you're already influenced to make the decision that they want you to. Now, this is more dangerous than any other country that you ever will see. Most countries don't even give the perception of free will, but when there's a perception of free will and there's absolutely no free will, it'll remain dominant because the first sin of man and woman was the ability to choose to eat and not to eat. And it is our ability to choose that we have been driven into a place that has casted us out of the garden. And I want you to think about the way our women are going today. You can warn a woman about a negative man and say that this won't be good, it won't be the place that you need to go, but she will still choose the negativity. She can know herself that it's evil, but it is the place and the power of choice. No matter what the consequence of the choice, it is the ability to choose. And now that God said you should surely die, and it didn't happen immediately, gives us the desire to feed into the temporary satisfaction of our actions. This allows you to feel as if you personally chose the way to think that you do, and you haven't. Miss Anu, in her book Yorugu, explains the polarization is even if there is religion and politics. She goes on and explains how Greeks started with Homer, the poetic identity, to Plato, the literal interpretation. Now, if you look at our debates and our arguments, you start hearing people say empirical data suggest. Where is your sources? The authorities say. They ask you and they say all of these things. But that is Platonic thinking. An imbalanced form of Platonic thinking, because the original and true Asiatic African man, whatever you want to call him, had an intuitive intellect along with logical intellect. And in our new modern science, it is based off the understanding of multiple sciences. So it's a collective agreement, but it lacks the creativity of intuitive intelligence. So when Homer was poetic, he had an oral tradition. But then Plato changed the lingo and the language into a scientific language, and meaning that everything has a literal interpretation. So now when we come and we look into the scriptures for a complete literal interpretation, we fall short because we are not in tune to the creative right side thinking of the scriptures. We completely eliminate the poetic aspect of who we are. And we can see this demonization inside of the language of the people that we follow. And I say because I was a young man. And when I was real young, I was born left-handed, and my mother switched me to my right hand. And I asked her why, and she said, because I didn't want you to be evil or gay. Now, where did these thoughts come from? Where did this dichotomization that one is better than the other and one is less than the other? Where do we get these thinking from? Well, let's look at this. Inside of our own scriptures, we see that Benjamin, which is the son of the right hand, but had left-handed warriors, were corrupt in many ways, but in their name, they were said to be close with the divine king, our God. They were the son of his right hand, meaning that they were very creative, but there were corrupt aspects that came along with creativity. But as so with the right-handed individuals, because if you're a right-handed individual, you're a left-brain thinker, and if you're a left-handed individual, you're a right-brain thinker. So this is why your left-handed Benjamin was called the son of Yah's right hand. But we know the right brain deals with creativity. But when Platonic thinking came into place, the right hand was called dexter, which is the root word for dexterity, a noble person, a person with great influence, a poised person, a blessed individual. But the person with the left hand, which is a right brain thinker, was called sinister in Latin, and where we get our devious individuals from. So in the dichotomization, they split our minds up, letting us know that the creative side of the mind has to be done away with, and we have to go into a place of logical understanding and a place of empirical data where most people come to collectively identify this to be true. Eliminating the creative side from us as a people. Eliminating us from our creative side. And this is why you see arts coming out of the school, music coming out of the school, because everything is based on empirical data, based on the Platonic mindset of our people. Mind replaces spirit. Mind replaces spirit inside of the Platonic thoughts. So everything is given back to the body, and now there's nothing that's outside the body that is deeper than the physical world, which begins the despiritualization and removal of intuitive knowledge and replaced solely with analytical knowledge. The mind replaces spirit now. So you got your mind, body, and your soul, which are all attached to your body, but the spirit is no longer included because in Platonic thinking, if you could not verify it through science, it did not exist. And I'm sorry, but so many Israelites are caught up in this that they despiritualize themselves. But when you remove the intuitive knowledge, you kill off the prophecy of our people. You kill off the man himself, Moshe, who went to himself and God spoke to him alone to bring down the words of God and not a collective body. This is Eurocentric thinking at its finest, and you can find this in every single Afrocentric book. The fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. This is the book saying. Reversing the spiritual and become with the cosmos. You have to become one. The fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. God is not tangible. God is not a physical entity as we like to think. But it is something that we could not physically grasp, but it's something that we can connect with that's outside of time and space. Outside of the regular dimensions of our existence. So when God says that the beginning of knowledge is outside of your physical existence, we have to realize that empirical data and logical thinking is not only the basis of our existence, but there is an intuitive intellect that we have to be guided by. See, when you despiritualize an individual that is genetically, spiritually sensitive, he or she becomes a target or objectification because they are led by emotions. People who are completely logical are emotional because they go through depression because they don't have nothing to connect to. They don't have people to understand them. And you can look through psychology that people that are over-analytical and over-logic go through deep forms of depression because they're over-analyzing things and trying to interpret it from a physical perspective but don't have a belief system in the spiritual aspect. What do you think got us through slavery? It appeared that we had no answers to get out of slavery. It appeared that we had no reasoning to believe that there was something that was going to deliver us, but we had faith in something that is more powerful than ourselves, and we had belief that made us and allowed us to keep our spirit up during the slavery times. So once you're so trapped in logical and you're led by your emotions, and your emotions are all over the place, you become a target. And this is why our sisters get naked, because they have become objectified and see themselves as an object in pursuit of freedom, of choice, oblivious to self-inflicted ramifications of their actions. They're completely oblivious to their actions. So they say, they take their clothes off and they say it's art. But not knowing the same people who labeled it art objectified them only to use them for their own progressive movement. If you're advertising your flesh, don't be shocked that the flesh is what they're interested in. The polarization of our people is common now. Bipolarity is at its all-time because people don't see themselves as one individual. They see themselves as a conglomerate or a melting pot of two existence, a dual existence, and this happened when we took that tree of knowledge and good and evil. Our eyes were open to duality and not the unified aspects of who and where the Creator lies, because the Creator lies in a unified mind and a well-balanced mind. But when you separate us and you tell us that we're bad and we're good, then our lower self and higher self has a battle, then we have conflicting spirits inside of ourselves where we can't understand who we are as a people. We don't understand that the divine book of the scriptures lies patterns of who we are and codes on how we can genetically break the makeup and the foundation of who we are by resetting and through neuroplasticity, changing our thinking, behavior, and our patterns to elevate to a higher level. Our God is Yah is one. Yah meaning infinite. His existence is beyond this. They took us apart. They separated old from young and created a dilemma. They took our women from their husbands and created an entity of broken relationships. They took the children from their parents, dichotomizing, separating, being extremely analytical left-brain thinkers because they lack the creative side to influence where they are. If you look at our history in America, the black man was everything that created all things inside of this nation, but it was capitalized upon by the European. Our minds and our souls belonging to something that's great. We are a different species. We are part divine. We are as God. And the truth lies in us that maybe one day God forgive us all for all those who created calamity in his nation of Israel, all those who argued and debated a cause without having a natural and genuine love for our brothers, all those who are insecure but try to fulfill it through debates and ego. We ask our Heavenly Father to forgive us, and I ask the Father for forgiving me, to forgive me for opening the floodgates of imperfection, of division instead of building. And when you see the journey that we're on, I have lost more people when we got land and moved forward into the future and building something in the name of Yah than I ever did when I lived and tried to build inside of this nation in the beast of the nation. And Moses suffered the same fate, because when he talked autonomy, when he spoke of liberation and tried to build the people and take them out of the belly of the beast, they wanted a leader to bring them back into the incarceration and the mental shackles of oppression. So I feel like I have God on my side. And I feel that all those who are trying to push to create Goshens, who are trying to create communities for our people to dwell in, to preserve our culture, has God on their side. But those who want to keep our people inside of the cities and part of the social structure that destroyed us and part of the economic system that doesn't have a fair balance for our people, God will show them in the long run. God will speak. God will talk. And God will let all those who have taken on a cloak of Eurocentric thinking to fall flat on their face and give the crown of splendor to those who focus on him, and he crowns them with the intuition of divine intelligence. There is no power greater than the Heavenly Father. And there is no teacher that is greater than Yah himself. The fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge, and westernized, dichotomized thinking and Platonic thinking shall die. And may all praise the supreme intellect of the universe, Yah, our forefathers, Yah, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and I say, hallelujah. Well, we wait for our brother Sarah. And what I want to say to our people is I pray that you got something from the message, and I hope that your spirit feels it. I hope that you took the time to breathe in that good energy that you have deep down inside of you. I pray that the Heavenly Father blesses you with all that your pure heart desires, and not all that your heart desires. I pray that if there's a mother or father in your life that you're not close to, that you get back with them, because the prophet says that he's going to bring the hearts of the sons back to the father and the hearts of the father back to the sons. I pray that we stop this dichotomization that Eurocentric, westernized teaching has done to us. And I thank the Heavenly Father for all things. And every last person, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to fight or argue. I came to bring a word and a message. And I pray that Yah is with all you in all your struggles, because we all go through it. And I want you to realize that you're built up off of shame. Your hurtings deep down inside. So you find superficial ways to fulfill the hurt that you have. But it's not going to fill a void, because that's not where you're suffering at. You're suffering from a lack of love from the people that you love. The people that you walk away from and put on better clothes or get better furniture to make it look like you're making it and successful, and boast about your job, to try to fill a void of the insecurities that follow you from leaving your family. We got to make it happen. Please, if you can, support me and go to the Spiritual Development Channel. Even sign on to be a Patreon and support this Goshen movement. Again, the Spiritual Development Channel. And also I have books out, 3 books, and I'm coming out with new books. One of the books is Ancient Science of Love, that's already been out for a few years. The other one is called Parashat Noah. And the last one is called The Queen's Sacrifice, which is written by my wife, and I helped out a little bit. I think that all you sisters or brothers who are trying to understand the woman need to pick up that book because it's very powerful. Sal, you there?
Yeah, radio check. Yeah, my mic is acting up a little bit. Okay, I'm back. Apologize. But once again, family, this is your time. I see you got some people on the phone lines right about now. If you have any questions or comments, you got to dial that number, 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1, and that lets me know that you have a question. But let's go to the first person. Let's go to 720-352. You're live.
Shalom, 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 Nasi, shalom, Sal. How y'all doing?
Shalom, King. Shalom, beautiful brother. How you feeling, man?
I'm good. This is Davon. Actually, Nasi, I just grabbed your book, Parashat Noah. So I'm in that right now. So it's deep. I'll just let the audience know it's deep. You know what I'm saying? Do your homework. He bring it in there. You touched on so many things. I would like you to expound on a couple of scriptures because it sounds like, you know, the nations are caught up with the wisdom of the world opposed to the wisdom of the Torah. Concerning that, if you could expound on Ecclesiastes 1:18, and then my second question is, would you consider idolatry a form of mind control based on, Israel was always told to leave Egypt alone? If you could expound on that question based on Isaiah 19:3, and I'll fall back.
All right. I'm going to do this, King. And because you sound like a brother that is very, very powerful and diligent, I want to read it for you. Ecclesiastes 1:18, for much wisdom is much grief, and he that increases knowledge increases sorrow. And that's what you're speaking of, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, I want to explain it like this. It means that the more conscious and elevated that you become as an individual, and you probably notice it, the more grief your spirit becomes. Because how detached the world is from the connection of God. So it's not trying to push you away from knowledge. It's not trying to push you away from wisdom. But what it's telling you is that there is going to be a lot more grief. You think that when you come into this way of life as a Hebrew Israelite, that everything is going to be better. But once your knowledge expands, your perception expands. Once you ask God to open up your eyes and see the iniquity that's around you, people that you love are going to be your enemies. So all of this that we have to see as a people, when we grow into this knowledge, when Moses came up from the mountains, he seen the people and he came down and he snapped. The Hebrew word is quatsaf. He snapped. He lost his mind because he gained more knowledge and wisdom, and he could not believe the atrocities of the people. But at the same time, that grief for that snapping cost him his blessing. So there's a perfect balance. It is the key, and I love that you brought this, King, because in truth, I don't want people thinking that just because they become a Hebrew Israelite, everything is going to be okay, because it isn't. It's going to be a mental struggle. It's going to be grief. You're going to understand why you're suffering, why your family is suffering, why people around you are suffering. Hell, why you're suffering. And people are not going to want to hear it. People are going to be complacent in their lifestyle, searching after the American dream. And like I said earlier, America's culture or politics is infused in its culture. So people who listen to the music of the nation, watch the TV of the nation, they automatically have the same mind as the nation, and they can't see that it's wrong. Even though they speak that it's wrong, they really feel comfortable inside of it. So did that kind of answer your question, King?
Definitely, because, like I was saying, we're caught up with the wisdom of the world, and there's so much science versus everything else. If you're not following under the scientific answers, people look at you like you're crazy, but they just don't know that Torah. You know what I'm saying? They don't know that Torah. It's full of science, and you brought plenty of metaphysical scientific knowledge to the table as far as that goes. And definitely go ahead.
Let me share this with you, and I'm gonna share this. This is exclusive to the South Showtime, and you can't find it on no internet. You can look it up, and you won't find it. There was something that man ingested that killed him in the scriptures, or human genes, because we speak about the scriptures early in Genesis, and we understand that some of it is metaphoric, some of it is allegoric. But there was something that man ingested that killed him, and he took the fruit from the woman, and it caused death upon him. But what could he take from a woman that causes death? All scientists have been discovered in understanding the reason why humans age and die is because of a malfunction in the mitochondria DNA from apoptosis or through free radicals of oxygen that's inside the mitochondria or outside the mitochondria DNA that distorts the DNA and allows it to create misfolded proteins. So when we talk about this ultimate science, we're talking about the scriptures dropping knowledge about stuff that scientists are just now discovering. The thing that the mother of all living gave man is what caused him to die. And so some people will argue that, hey, well, humans couldn't exist without mitochondrial DNA. That's not true because they found new eukaryotic cells that existed without mitochondrial DNA and found other ways to absorb energy. So humans are constantly developing. So I don't need science to prove my theories. What we use science is if it backs the scriptures. You get what I'm saying? So we have a divine knowledge and a more powerful knowledge. We can go to the science schools, and I tell you, if you look this up, you're not going to find it because it ain't there yet. But after South Showtime, somebody's going to regurgitate this and use it. But this is the level of intuitive knowledge that God gives us. King, I'm not a scientist, bro. But what I am is I'm an individual that's intuitively guided, that God shows me how to weave material together. If I see something in the scriptures, I automatically could put it together. Perfect example, like when I told you that my mother changed my hand from left to right. If you look up changing a left-handed person's hand to the right hand, it leads to, in adulthood, forgetfulness. Well, hey, here goes the master weaver, me. I take that and I say, hey, in the scriptures, when Jacob switched hands with Manasseh and Ephraim, Manasseh means forgetfulness. So poetically, I untie all of these things together and create and embody, not recreate or reestablish a divine science where Eurocentric thinking is finally coming to once they get out of their biased equations and solutions to form formulas. Okay, King, and I know you had one. You had the last question was did that coincide? I don't remember the last question.
The second, yeah, beautiful answer. My second question is, do you think idolatry is a form of mind control? Since Israel is constantly warned, don't go back to Egypt, don't follow after the Egyptians, based on Isaiah 19:3.
Okay. It's funny because I had a conversation and somebody asked me about the wars of heaven and the wars of earth and how can God be powerful and there be these wars. Well, I basically explained that as above, so below, right? And that's common understanding. It's simplified and not too complicated, but the truth is that also the heavens influence the earth, as we see through celestial entities such as the sun, the moon, and having their zodiac influences on people. But there's a power where the human beings actually influence the celestial entities. So when you see angels fighting, you're actually seeing the mind, the influence of individuals coming together, creating a collective consciousness. So that collective consciousness created an entity which is of physical angels. So if I believe angels are over the laws of physics, then the mind can create laws of physics that can exist because it holds parameters on people. So if I ask you what angels was governing Israel now, I would say to you that it's the angel of adversity, because we are adverse in our minds because we're under the mind control of idolatry.
Right.
So there is a devil, but it's not a devil as we see it. It is a collective consciousness that created adversity to hold us back. Because idolatry is not our natural form. Idolatry is the constitution of another nation. So when they had their laws for their gods, it means that that's how they govern their country. You're a foreigner. When you come into their laws, you are under idolatry and you're under something you cannot strive in. Therefore, you are a servant. You are someone who left your family to go into another family. Therefore, you become only a servant in the system.
Right. And that's why I brought up this specific verse. It says, the spirit of Egypt will fall in its midst. I will destroy their counsel, and they will consult the idols and the charmers, the mediums, and the sorcerers. So it seems like when people go back to this, not to say that Egypt didn't have no wisdom and knowledge, I'm not going there, but the idols, like you said, that are attached to this nation, it seems like people are still under this form of mind control. Could you expound on that specific verse?
Okay, definitely. All right. When we go into the Egyptologists, they say we give homage, or we give praise to the Netaru, which is basically nature. Now, Hebrews, we do respect the laws of physics, which is nature, the angels. We respect them, but we are not held by them. God made us gods, so the laws of nature or physics or even the Netaru could be stepped aside and controlled by us. That's how powerful we are. And how can I prove that in scriptures? In Daniel, when you see in lion, then if they, in a fiery furnace, there's an angel that stands in the midst. That angel would probably more than likely be the angel who governs the laws of fire. So since he's there, Daniel was not burned. When you look at Moses parting the sea, Moses didn't succumb to nature. He did not succumb to the Netaru. He parted it with force. He had power over it. So yes, these things can sound like divine science and inspiration, but the true fact is that we are gods and we're given the power over the reality that we are trapped in. And once we believe too much in the physical world, we become encased in this reality and we cannot come out of it. And that is the true thing that we in, because God said he made us in his image, but we shall fall like men. We created this reality and we trapped ourselves in the own laws and physics of this reality, when we have to realize and wake up that we're given the power of B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, to transform this reality.
Well, I know there's other callers. Devon,
stand by, because we have a lot of people listening to the show, but nobody else press number 1 at this time. Again, family, if you want to ask any questions, that number is 319-527-6239. If you already dialed in, just press number 1, and that lets me know that you have a question. But you said you read his book. Oh, well, did you just get it? But did you read any part of this book?
Yeah, I've been going through it. It's right here, Parashat Noah. It goes into a lot of stuff. The nakedness of God, the raven. Let me just open it up and look at it. The chakras. It deals with a lot of different things. I mean, it talks about the flood, all the different deluge stories, removing the veil, Cain and Abel, and the human psyche. I mean, it's a deep book, y'all. I mean, if you don't know the scriptures, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you got to, if you don't know the Torah, it's going to go over your head a little bit, because, he uses the Hebrew. Zion Lex got a little paragraph on there. So, I mean, it's a deep book. I actually grabbed 2 of your books, but specifically, I wanted to dive into the Genesis personally, just to, go back to the beginning just to get the foundations, you know what I'm saying, on a deeper level. Because, of course, like you said, you know, when you broke down the different levels of the Torah, you know, the Peshat and the Sod and, you know, the things of that nature. So, I mean, we all got a lot to learn. I'm trying to learn more, you know what I'm saying? And I agree, the the wisdom of the world is what, I don't want to say winning right now, but it's what's it's key. It's the blood of the nations these days. This is what people are feeding off of, and I think people really need to go into that Torah and find everything that they're looking for. And I think the idolatry, whether it be, you know, all the other religions, not just, you know, specifically Christianity, but Hinduism, Buddhism, they have idols, and these idols, you know, offer all these different sorts of enlightenment and things like that. But the Most High said that all the idols of the gods of the nations are idols. So I mean, it's beautiful that somebody can break it down on a level like this, and you're a powerful speaker. So I think y'all should check out Nasi, you know what I'm saying, and tune in, you know what I'm saying, to whatever he's bringing to the table. It's straight Torah, straight fire, you know what I'm saying? Just from my perspective.
Man, I appreciate you, King, man, and definitely, you know, give me an inbox, man, and we can. I got a lot of things I'm working on, and I didn't know, you know, I didn't know how long you want me to speak, but I got loads of lessons. But I just wanted to give people a little bit of consolence. I wanted to console the people with, you know, just some words to make them feel inspired. You know, we always get conflict. We always get, sometimes you even get a lot of metaphysics now, you know, but it's not helping the people, you know. So I want to give people aspects of psychology and help them, like I said. So if people can log on to the Spiritual Development channel, that's my new channel. I got probably 5 videos up now. I will be dropping 2 more tomorrow. They're short videos, 8 to 11 minutes. And it's going to be easy for people to digest, something that they can play over and over again, grasp. It's simple and simplified. I'm making this information simple. Science overcomplicates things where you can't understand it because of their language that they use to block it from the layman person. So what I do is I bring it to the simplest form so you can understand how this reality actually works and how you can incorporate a spiritual science with the scripture.
All right, Davon. Do you have any further questions? Are you good?
I mean, like I said, I'm listening. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to take up all the time because I know he got a lot to teach. Like I said, I'm an author myself, and I want to say, you know, we need more authors in Israel. We need more authors for the Gentiles. We need to be able to bring this knowledge to the people. And like you said, in layman's terms, my books are more reference books. I don't do a lot of talking in my books specifically. I let the scripture speak most of it. You know, I bring up a topic and I bring all the supporting verses. But in the book that I got from Nasi, you know, he brings the Hebrew. And I think everybody needs to learn the language. If you don't know the language, that's a science in itself. So with that, all praise to the Most High God of Israel. Thank you, Sal. Peace to you, Nasi. Shalom to the audience.
All right, shalom. What I'll do is I'll send Davon's information to you, Nasi, via inbox. You know, he's one of the people that's on the show regularly, so I'll definitely send you information.
And you know, LeBron just finished playing, so you know.
No doubt. Yeah. All right, family. So once again, you know, my number is 319-527-6239. I see you have a lot of people on the phone line. Simply press number 1, and we'll add you to the conversation. Hold on 1 second. Let me just. Okay. Yeah. As far as the people, Nasi, you said a lot of people. You lost a lot of people as far as you going into a new venture, as far as, you know, building a home and things like that. Can you explain further, like how much people you lost because of this? You know, is it a lifestyle change? What was it that made people want to move away?
Truthfully, it's because people don't want salvation and people truly fear black empowerment. You understand what I'm saying? So we talk empowerment, but when the person that's not empowering the people isn't us or the person, so to speak, people fear it because they have automatically implanted in the amygdala that there's a fear and cult-like oppression about to happen. So even no matter how much I collectively shop Goshen and Shomrei HaTorah, I even have a system where anybody who wants to be involved, we're giving away land, we're giving away everything. People just aren't biting to the level that they should because it's just a natural fear. Most people have the dream of living in America. Most people have the dream of the success of America. And it's just implanted in our DNA. When you tell people that you're moving on land and having your own community, they think that you're going to live in huts and doodle in pits. And,
right.
You know, they have negative connotations where in truth, we have more amenities where we at than they have in the city. You know what I'm saying? We living in houses that are heavily furnished. You know, right now we got houses coming. We got one house right there that is an expensive house sitting on the land. It's very beautiful. We have a temple that we're building. We have an earth bag home. We have different type of livings. We have off the grid living. We have on the grid living. So if you want to live with city water and electricity, you can. If you want to live off the grid with solar panels and well water, then you go to the back and we got an area for you. So we're trying to accommodate all people. But people in truth don't want salvation. They want religion. And even people that attach themselves to the movement, are looking for identity. They're looking for personal identity. They're looking to suffice their own ego. And I know, Sal, you know it. You can see, like, there's people that always want to debate or argue or even, and sometimes you're like, what did they do for the community? What are you doing? And most of them aren't because they're so heavily infatuated with their self. So anything that is talking about a movement, anything that's talking about something that me and Brother Nasi Rob or Prince Rob have came together and put together and established, people are afraid of it because maybe it isn't their idea, it isn't their concept. But when you're in the pulpit and you're teaching these words, talking about getting your own land, everybody is yay, yay, yay. When you're paying the rent, living in another building, people are paying. But when you're paying for your own thing, people don't have it. Black people, our minds are enslaved. We're still not liberated. Most people are congregationalists. They're not nationalists. And this is what I ran into when I first started debating. After I debated, people asked me, well, what are you going to do with the momentum? And you know, Sal, the first thing I did was try to bring the nation together. Now, we did so many events together, but my whole thing was, why don't we do a collective government since we're doing all these events, we're working all together. It never happened because people did not want that. But how can you turn down a collective government where we're saying, hey, all these groups come together and establish and work on socioeconomics and the military and do not talk debate religion and stuff like that, but we can build on these areas where the people can benefit from it. Everybody still keeps their same congregation. You don't lose no members or nothing. How can you turn that down? But people wanted no part of it. Even the people that we were doing the debates with, they didn't want no part of it. So it was the persona of unity. It wasn't the actual unity. And I stand strong on my ground, King. I don't care if anybody's offended. I really don't care because I evolved as an individual. I was so kind. Sometimes I became a doormat. And now that God has revealed, He's revealed what needs to be done and what people can do, even if it ain't. And why do people say, "Oh, you think your movement is God?" No, I'm saying anybody that goes to themselves is a movement of God, because they understand how important it is to preserve nationality and family. So anybody from the nation of Israel that says, "Hey, let's collectively get that," and even Sal, you have the opportunity to be a part of this. You understand? And we're not asking for donations. And this is the thing, we're not asking for nothing. Sometimes we may ask for a little help here and there, but we're not requiring anything from anybody. We just want people who are really, really into what we're doing and wanting to be a part. So anybody that's listening and they have the idea, hey, I want to live in a community with a bunch of Israelites and we do this and we do that, and we have a collective system, we have a unified and unilateral, we have a bilateral government, well, actually a trilateral government, they should want to be a part. And if not, go on your own and buy your own land and build it up. But what we're doing is saying, hey, you can save money by not even buying the land, and we'll give you the land as long as you're utilizing it, and all you have to pay after 5 years is the taxes on the land that you and your family are using. So basically, the investment of money is there and is given to the people. So the person, so the main source that most of this money comes from does not want much return, and it just wants to see the nations do good. So now you're talking about individuals who sacrifice their money. We're talking about the Goshen Project. The Goshen Project, and I'll be honest with you, the Goshen Project is probably already $500,000 in of sacrifice for building our nation. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot now. We're not talking about people that don't have lives. We're talking about people that have families, multiple families that invested, and mainly individuals who invested a lot more than most people. But a lot of us invest our time. So it's a collective effort that we're doing.
All right. All right, family, once again, we have a special guest, Nasi Yashuv-EL, right here on Debate Talk Radio. That number to call in is 319-527-6239. If you have any questions, make sure you press number 1, and we'll add you to the conversation. Again, I see a lot of people on the phone lines. We appreciate you. We have some Skype callers out there. We appreciate you as well. Just press number 1, and we'll add you in the conversation. Do you tend to feel like people are just waiting for, like, your, like with the house situation that you're doing? Do you feel like our people just want to wait for the finished product rather than to just go along with the process? Because a lot of our people, they want to see, okay, let's see what he does with it first, and when it's all said and done, then we'll hop in and join in. But go ahead.
No. I absolutely believe that. I think you hit on the nail on the head with that one, because people do want to see, hey, let us see how it's working first, and then we'll join on. But those people are good people, but they're not the leaders. See, the leaders are pioneers. They're the ones who invest and go out there and make something happen and not wait for something to happen. So those who are waiting for something to happen are good people, but they're not the ones who are the leaders of the people, because they're the followers of the people. So yes, I can feel the people's fear because of all the people that bought land before and probably didn't make it right and do it right. I can see it, but this process is different. If you look at our Constitution that we have, you see that there's not a sole dominating person on the board. It is a collective board that actually brings balance, using Isaiah 33:22, which says the Most High is our King, our Judge, and our Lawgiver. So we break it up into 3 different entities similar to the American government to bring balance. And it's free to all. It's open to all who want to be a part, who wants to be seriously involved in it. And so we're not asking money. We're not asking for money. We're asking people that want to be seriously a part and invested in it, and pay a little a monthly fee, which is not much. We're not asking for thousands of dollars. We're not asking for none of that. We're just saying that, hey, you give enough to show that you're concerned enough. Because people don't really feel that they're invested. When people put money in it, they feel way more invested. But we don't want money to build anything. We just want to make sure that, hey, you're serious about this, because anybody can say, I want to be a part, and just throw a monkey wrench in the whole program.
That's right. And what I'll do, Nasi Yashuv-EL, when you get a chance, is give me that information in the inbox so I can spread it in the description box as far as people supporting what you do. And, of course, I will look into it myself, and I'm going to reach out to you on the sidelines and speak to you more about it and see how I can get involved and stuff like that. So, once again, family, make sure you check the description box later on YouTube and iTunes in the podcast section. And if you want any further information, of course, just reach out. But I see people listening to the show, man, but nobody's pressing number 1 at this time. So I'm going to assume that, you can bring out some more information, or if not, you can pretty much wrap it up. It's up to you. You can bring out some more information if you have some.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I like to give a shout out, because Mario Ben Yahuwah is definitely, has been a person that has been working with you, and I respect that aspect of people that are trying to put their foot down. And I'd like to give a shout out to all the soldiers of Shomer HaTorah, all the people that put their work in. And I honestly would like to start out with many of the sisters that just put so much work involved into it. And we have my wives, and we got a sister Ofua that puts in the work. But when I say my wives, I mean Rofania Yehuda and the Tara Elazar that they just sacrifice everything. You also have Labana Baruch, Maury Baruch. You have Danielle. Those who just put in the work. I'm trying not to leave out anybody. Shemaiah, Yafia, all those that try to work. So I like to start with my sisters because my sisters actually put in the most work. Also, so I want to go to the brothers and give a shout out to. I know you've seen them a lot now. Probably the general of Shomer HaTorah, Coach Shemuel, and give a shout out to my beloved brother Saren Asa. Also, like I said, Mariel. My young boys, I have to give a huge shout out to because they are putting a lot of work into what we're doing inside of this, and I like to definitely give a shout out to Nasi Rav, Moray Yaya. It's just so many people. So if I left anybody out, I want to say, God forgive me, and I ask that they forgive me because sometimes it ain't good to think off the head like that, but to have things written down. But I ask everybody to just be mindful of what we're doing. I do have something else I want to talk about, and it's about psychology. So if you have any questions, anybody have any questions, I definitely can get into the question aspect, preferably. But if there's not, I will go over a small lesson, and it's dealing with the psychology of a sociopath. And I think that's very important because there's many sociopaths in our lives that we don't even know. You know what I'm saying? And mainly the scriptures deal with a few sociopaths. All right? And it's dealing under the basis of antisocial personality disorder. I guess the American Psychiatric Association says that ASPD, which is antisocial personality disorder, involves at least 3 of the following malfunctions, right? A failure to conform to society accepted standard behavior. So if a person is a failure to conform to society, which many of us might fall under that, but you got to listen to the rest of it. Deceitfulness, impulsiveness, failure to plan ahead. So women, if you're looking at a man, if he's a failure to conform to society and accept the standard behavior. 2, if he practices deceitfulness, impulsiveness, and a failure to plan ahead, everything is me, me, me. 3, aggressive and irritable easily. 4, disregard for work and family obligations. 5, disregard for safety of oneself and another. 6, lack of remorse and regret. Now, I don't know how many sisters are listening to this lesson, but you only need three of, you only need three of these 6 that I just mentioned. I'm going to mention them again. A failure to conform to society, accept the standard behavior, that's 1. Deceitfulness, impulsiveness, and failure to plan ahead, that's 2. 3, aggressiveness and irritability, that's 3. Disregard for work and family obligations, that's 4. 5, disregard for safety of oneself and others, that's another one. And 6, lack of remorse or regret. I want to share a short in-depth interpretation of what this disorder from the article of Psychology Today is called. The 10 personality disorders, a short, sharp look into the 10 personality disorders. And they're going to go to a list of these personality disorders, which we touched on 3 of them, but I want to go into the Tanakh. In the Tanakh, there's a biblical hero who fits this pattern of behavior. And we all know his name. His name is Samson. Samson, a Hebrew strong man. Samson's name itself derives from the word shemesh, which is sun. And in ancient times, the sun represents the self. One's personality and ego. Ego is absolutely control. Ego is an absolute control of a psychopath, sociopath, and narcissist. So let's think about this. The sun, which Samson represents, is dealing with self. It's dealing with absolutely control as psychopaths, as sociopaths, and as narcissists. Like many pathologies, they are connected to the genetic and to the way that the individual was raised. So most of our pathologies are connected to the way that we raise, but pathologies such as sociopath, a psychopath, are usually connected to overbearing mothers. Overbearing mothers, which I will touch. In this case, it was more than likely due to overprotective mother's disorder. This in itself is a result of an estranged or non-existent relationship between mother and father. So now we see that it's based on a non-existent relationship between mother and father. This is implied in Judges 13:11. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man and said unto him, Art thou the man that speaketh unto the woman? And he said, I am. See, now here, if you think about it, if you notice, he calls her the woman, not his woman or wife. Also, you see this story, he doesn't listen well. He was told by his wife that it was an angel of the Lord, but he didn't believe her until the angel came to him. And still confused whether it was God or an angel, when the mother is estranged from her husband, she looks to her male children to fulfill the role of her husband and become overprotective. So now when you look at this story, you start to see that because of the estrangement between the husband and wife, and you see this in today's society where most of our sisters, they engage with a relationship with their son, they treat them like they're their boyfriends instead of their sons. And now they totally protect them from anybody trying to intrude on their child or anybody that says anything that's negative, because they're doing as if they would if somebody said something for a husband that they love. Now, this is something to think about, sisters. Really think about. Because it's very important. This has a negative effect on the child, according to an article found on the website called Parenting. Sean Bean writes in an article named The Problem with Mama Bear Syndrome. And I'm going to read this article. Since the immemorial, Mom Mighty Ursine, protector that she is, has been a child's most trustworthy ally. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, y'all. Has been a child's most trustworthy ally. You'd have to fight her tooth and nail to tear a halo off of her kid's head. But heaping layers of maternal bubble wrap can create serious problems. A plethora of studies shows that an overprotective parent has children who deal with higher rates of depression, stunted emotional development, and lack of confidence, fear of failure, and failure to launch, meaning that they don't want to go on their own. They have their own fear. And this is a book. This is actually one of my books that I'm reading out of right now. The mother's instinct is to protect her children and see them as a positive light at nearly all costs, says Dana Dorfman, a psychotherapist and family counselor in New York City. But why at times is there such a chastism between being protective and being realistic? It's our hope that our children reflect our values and belief system, Dorfman explains. Ideally, we view our children as individuals who are separate from us, but invariably their boundaries between our self-perception and other perception of them become blurred. So we want to view them as us. So now when you start to deal with viewing them as yourself, you become blurry in the judgment because we never judge ourselves the same way we judge others. So when you're protecting your child, you cannot see them in a negative light, even though you see them in a negative light in your own reality. It is hard for somebody to tell you something about your child, just like it's hard for somebody to tell you about yourself, because when they speak against your child, they're speaking against your motherhood. The result, their sins become our sins. Their failure become our failures. And sometimes a mother's commitment to seeing the best in their child and therefore the best in themselves means they're unable to consider alternative interpretations. So what this means, usually when a mother is estranged from her husband or a single mother, she is extremely compassionate to her son, even when it's not earned. And this creates what is appearance to seem to be an over-masculine male. So she creates an over-masculine male because he feels like everything's entitled to him. So he becomes very aggressive. The topic will be discussed later. We're going to get into it a little later in more detail. When Samson was born, the Lord began to deal with him between two places. And these places, if you think about it, have spiritual and emotional, mental implications. If we go to Judges 13:25, it says, "And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol." Zorah means a hornet, and the hornet symbolizes sexuality. So they're giving you an interpretation of where this over-masculine male is going to dwell. He's going to dwell in the perfect balance between Zorah and Eshtaol. According to Dr. Leanne Leadon, the psychopath, want three things in life. The psychopaths want three things in life: power, control, and sex. Now, ladies, most of you are attracted to these males because in society, you're taught that these are the alpha males, and most of us are driven by sex and over-sexualized. So we're looking for the first thing we look for in a mate is sexuality. We want to know who can do it like this, do it like that, because our music places it in the back of our minds to be a desire, which encourages us to misbehave and pick in the wrong way through intersexual mate selection. So we got to think about that, ladies. Right? Often sex is simply an extension of their desire for power and control. So most sociopath men are going to use this sexual aspect as an extension of their control over an individual. Sociopaths get off by dominating or controlling the individual. Testosterone levels are extremely high in a male and female sociopath. The results are competitiveness and aggression. Most sociopaths would lock you in with sex, knowing that oxytocin that is released in a woman will most make her clingy. Now, one thing we have to realize is that most sociopaths will lock you in with sex because they know that when you have sex with them, the oxytocin that's released in the female's brain makes them clingy towards a man. Where in a man, the oxytocin later make him more protective, but knock off his testosterone, which makes him not desiring the woman as much. So if you notice that when a man has sex, he wants to roll over, he doesn't want to be touched. This is because the oxytocin knocks down or basically neutralizes his testosterone, and he doesn't have that male aggressive desire. But eventually, after it plays out, he becomes more protective and dominant over the woman. And it's important that you learn these things, sisters. It's really, really important. Oxytocin, when it hits the bloodstream of an individual, they become more malleable, and it's perfect for manipulation, meaning that you're basically set up for mind control. So most of our sisters, you find them in a loop or a cycle. They're in a relationship that is not healthy, but the sex may be partially healthy, and it keeps them into this loop because they are easily manipulated after these actions happen. So that's why our society is pushing sex so much, because it allows our female counterparts and our males not to make accurate or good logical decisions, and it's based off of the process of manipulation. And this is what we got to think about, because some male sociopaths, sex is no matter the gender. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Sex doesn't matter the gender with some sociopaths. They are aggressive, and they want to dominate whoever it is. Remember, they are about control, and even if they don't engage in the same sexual act, they will encroach in another male's space, whether placing his foot extremely near or touching you while you sit at a table or pressing up against you while you're having dialogue. So these men are not only driven by control over women, but they're driven over control over men. So if they don't practice a sexual act, they still encroach in other space, like being over-aggressive with men, grabbing them on their shoulder, bloody, showing you this, or coming into your comfort zone. Now, that's a lot, sisters. Y'all got to pay attention to these men. You got to pay attention to these men. Remember, they want lots of control, which a lot of times translate into lots of sex. Let's go into Ishtaol, because we already see that Zora represents the hornet, which represents sexuality. But Ishtaol means entreaty or a petition. Zora, the hornet, is a symbol of sex. Connected to Ishtaol means a petition for women. So you always petition, a sociopath is always making this petition for women. And why is this happening? Because a lot of times there's a disconnect with the mother. Because when the mother is treating the child like it's their husband or their boyfriend, the male child also resembles the father's action towards the mother and has a form of disrespect. So he's always petitioning the woman for sexual acts or petitioning the woman to do what he wants them to do, because he does not have no respect for them, because he wasn't taught that, and he sees that they're vulnerable to manipulation, such as his mother. But he needs his mother, who is an empathetic person, to guide him through life, because she protects him from all the world and everybody that's against him. So if you have a bad child, you notice that he uses a male child. He uses his mother to get through school to protect him. And she will protect him because she thinks her child would do no good, but he uses his mother, stay close to his mother enough, but he knows how to control her and get her to do what she wants him to do. And we look at Judges 14:2, and it says, and he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me to wife. So now he's telling his parents what to do and get him a wife. He made this early petition for a woman because he wanted her sexually. He's seen her. He didn't see acts of her that were great, but he just viewed her and seen that that's what he wanted, even though they knew that they were a tribal-based community. Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman amongst the daughters of thy brethren, amongst all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleases me well. So now, even after the parents petition, because after time, when you start to try to kick wisdom into your child, it's too late, because you already set them up and trained them into a certain way. So now this sociopath, who is a product of overbearing motherhood, is now becoming controlling of you, and you start to fall in and give him to his ways, and you start to justify his bad behaviors and his actions. So mothers, most mothers nowadays are raising up young sociopath males. Now think about it. In these verses, his petition seems paradoxical. In verse 2, he includes the mother and father in his decision, and then completely disregards their counsel. That seems kind of contradictory. Why do you ask them, but then you disregard whatever they say? Well, who better to use you as your minions but your own parents? Who better to use as your minions but your own parents? You have to give them the feeling that you are concerned about what they think, and then when they think that you're concerned, you disregard whatever they say anyway, but leaving them thinking that, hey, you still care. It's manipulation at its best. There are so many stories on the internet on how psychopaths take advantage of their parents with certain favors, and when things go bad, they place the blame on the parents or make them feel guilty when it's time to pay back the favor. Also, you got to think about this. He states that it's pleasure that drives the decision-making. This uncovers the true religion of people who are narcissists. Man, their belief is hedonism, which is a pursuit of pleasure, and the practice of sensual self-indulgence. Think about it. It's hedonism. Hedonism is I'll do what I want to do. And we don't got long. I'm going to finish this up. Later, Samson's family throws a feast for his new woman, and 30 men come to greet him. This is just what an egotistical person like Samson wanted. A chance to prove he is intellectually superior over others, as we see in our debate forums now. But it's not that psychopaths or sociopaths are more intelligent than others. They just harness the innate ability to hone in on the weakness of their victims. So sociopaths believe they're more intelligent, but they're not more intelligent. They just know your weaknesses and how to play on it in order to manipulate you to get you to do what they want you to do. And that's something you need to think about. Samson entertains his guests with an interesting riddle with a hefty wage attached to it. He says this, and I'm going to read out the scriptures. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. What's so interesting about his riddle is that he based it entirely on an anomaly that he only witnessed. How pompous is that? His arrogant riddle is only based off of something he can answer himself. It is a trick that is used by sociopaths. It is a real trick. So it's not that sociopaths are more intelligent. They just rig the rules of the game, making it impossible for you to win. This is what we call a logical fallacy, similar to the tactics used by narcissists called moving the goalposts. And you know what I mean by moving the goalposts. They think they make it and they kick it, and you move the goalposts and post they don't make it. They set up unreachable goals to validate their reason for being dissatisfied with you, to perpetuate and justify their mistreatment. So even if you do what they say, they make their intentions or their goals unreachable so they can continue to be dissatisfied with you and manipulate you. So if you've ever been in a relationship with a sociopath, no matter how good you do, the best effort you put forth, it'll never be satisfied because it completely moves the goal from you, or that person moves the goal from you so you can't reach it, so they can continue to belittle you in order to have more control over you. Seems like anybody been through anything like this? You got to think about it. Remember, there was a rival between the Israelites and the Philistines. You got to think about that. So there's an underlying malice that is less present at first glance. Let us go back into the story and discuss the wage of the bet. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye certainly declare it to me within the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. Okay, 30 garments, Samson, really? Here's a glimpse into his mind. 30 garments are a lot today. Imagine in biblical times. But the studies show that most sociopaths are flashy and highly materialistic. So I'm not going to go into too much more, but I want you to realize that there is a lot more inside the scriptures that deal with patterns. And if you find these steps and these stages, or even some of these notions that give you a hint that the person that you're dealing with or the person that you know is a sociopath, you have to be aware, because the story of Samson highlights many aspects of sociopathic behavior. And I want you to think about that as an individual. So earlier we gave you inspiration, and today we gave you preventative measures to step away from individuals that are sociopaths, and all that came from the scriptures. So when you're dealing with me, you're dealing with education, you're dealing with involvement in things that are practical to the way of life, and that comes out of one of the new books I'm working on, where I'm dealing with different psychological disorders that come from the scriptures. And with that, I'd like to close out. And if anybody have any questions, anybody online that gave a one, but if not, we can definitely end it. And all praises, all honor, all glory for the supreme intellect of the universe. Hallelujah.
All right. I see we have another caller. Once again, you know that number, 319-527-6239. That's 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1, and we'll add you to the conversation. As well as 720-352. You're live. 720. Can you hear me? 720. You're live. All right, 720-352. Maybe it's on mute. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Up. Yep. Yeah, I guess it didn't work out. All right, Nasi Yashuv-EL, any last words to the family? Make sure you leave some website information for those who want to purchase the book and, check out some more things like that.
All right, definitely. You can go to Nasi Yashuv-EL Benzavulam on Facebook, and my second to last post is with a link to my book. Also, please subscribe to the Spiritual Development channel, where there's some informative information that you can utilize as an individual to grow strong into the practice of your life. And I'd like to thank you, Style Showtime, for the platform.
Hold on, Nasi. Hold on, Nasi. Hold on. Somebody else press number 1 real quick. Let's go to 443-815. You're live.
Hey, this is Brother Mercy. I just want to say, you talked about Samson. Sociopath, that could just be using a diagnosis, but that could just be a antisocial type deal where Samson, the Israelites and Philistines are enemies. So there's a reason why people don't talk to other people. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a neighborhood where it was good to be antisocial. Because you ran your mouth and say the wrong thing, you get shot. That's just real. Mm-hmm. So, you can act like you can run your mouth if you want to and be sociable, but if you socialize with the wrong people, that can get you real caught up real quick.
No, you're right in many aspects. And what I wanted to share is that's why I used his conversation with his parents. It wasn't until the end that I used the conversation that he was dealing with the Philistines, and it wasn't that he didn't talk to them. It wasn't that he didn't talk to them. He did talk to them, but when he engaged into them, he engaged them in such a pompous aspect that he set them up for failure. But in truth, if you were looking to marry into a family, you don't try to destroy the family that you're married into. It's anti-productive. So most sociopaths, when they get into a relationship with a woman, they destroy the woman's family in her eyes because she don't want to go back to them. So I do understand what you're saying. I don't disagree in any form. And I think that you're very wise, and I appreciate that information because that's deep too.
Yeah, but I also wanted to say that, no doubt about that. But I also wanted to say too, they were enemies, so we got to take that into account too. He was supposed to destroy them anyway. So he was the one chosen because Scripture says that too.
He didn't know he was going to destroy them. And
I know that, but the Scripture says that too. So I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying, to me, it couldn't have worked out no other kind of way because he had to. Let's just face it. They were enemies. When you're talking to your enemies, you're not going to be on friendly terms. You ain't trying to help them understand everything you're saying. Sometimes you approach stuff like that. Like when I talk to different people, I don't want them to understand everything. There's communication. You say things in certain ways. I don't know. I just see Sam in a different light. I see him as somebody, definitely a social. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying, to me, in his case, was necessary. I don't see it being beneficial, him being friendly with the Philistines. Look what they did to him. When he tried to be, when it was supposed to work out, what they do to him. You see what I'm saying? So, You know what I'm saying? I mean, he couldn't be too friendly. You know.
I'm going to say, but that definitely goes back into listen to Romeo and Juliet. Look at West Side Story. Wisdom in hindsight shows you that it's arrogance that causes you to marry into the enemy. And in it, there's a food in it, and there's a destruction. There was no the Capulets and what was it called? The Capulets and I don't know the other family on Romeo and Juliet. But then in West Side Story, you had two families when they married, and it was a direct war. So sometimes our ignorance shows a disregard to other people regardless. So like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you in anything, but I am saying that most of our young males are being raised to be sociopaths, and they're being separated, and they're raised by overbearing mothers, which creates these pompous individuals. Which Samson was very pompous and arrogant, and had no regard for his mother or his father. So this is the point that I'm bringing, and so I do see what you're saying, and I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah, we got two more callers, Nasi Yashuv-El, if you don't mind. We got two more. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's go to 530-434. You're live.
Yo, it's Brother B.A. out of Sacramento, California. Much love to all of those on the panel.
Shalom, King.
Shalom. How you doing, Brother Nasi? I remember a couple of years ago, me and you were corresponding on Facebook a couple of years back on one of my old accounts, and I ended up losing contact with you, and based on the internet, you get your own. All kind of madness goes on. But I'm a host. I have a show on this platform on Debate Talk for You. It's called the Man Up Segment. And I've been listening to your teachings and your lessons over the last couple of years. I took notice of you doing the Killing on Trial, and so I'm pretty familiar with the metaphysics and the epigenetics of that. I'm surface level. There's a brother. He's a co-host with me. His name is Anonymous Hebrew. He's a little bit more versed in that with the metaphysics and the epigenetics. He actually studies it very thoroughly. So most high willing. If when you're available, the new season starts up in September, and most high willing, we would love to if you're available, we would love to have you on, and most definitely do some building and some sharing, and bring more of that information out publicly, because that most definitely makes a difference. It can make a difference, not just with Israel, but humanity overall. And I would also like to say I've learned a lot from you over the last couple of years based on the teachings I've seen on YouTube and the lectures you have given out, man. So you most definitely are appreciated out here in California. There's a lot of brothers out here that watch you and appreciate what you've done so far.
Man, King, I appreciate you, and that's a sense of encouragement that allows me to be motivated and continue to go on besides the drive of the Most High, man. And I'm there, man. I'm a servant, man. So whenever you start out, I Sal will give me your information, and I'll make sure I reach out to you, or he give it to you, and you reach out to me, and we'll make this happen, man. I'm just here. I just want the best for our community, and I see a lot of times that it's good to have debates, but like Sal's bringing it now, you have a balance of things. You got to have things inspirational towards the people, and give people some kind of foresight, And so my brother King, I'm your new brother, man. So let's establish a close bonding relationship, and we'll make this happen. And whatever I can do, I can help build your show. I got people that are with me that are fire breathing dragons, bro, and they need platforms to display their talent. You know what I'm saying? And display who they are, and their intellect and their knowledge.
Man, most definitely. Most high willing, man, we can most definitely build. I would love to do that. And one thing I want to ask you, when it comes to outside sources, like I read a lot of books and stuff like that. So when it comes to the metaphysics, epigenetics, what would be some good sources to read outside the scriptures that line up with the scriptures? If you don't mind, if you have any of those sources on deck on memory, or maybe you may.
I got outside sources. I wouldn't say line up with scriptures, but like I said, my part is I'm the weaver. I'm the seamstress. I'm the person that puts together the garment, but the material may not be completely connected to one another, but I seam it together and make a perfect garment. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're talking about metaphysics, a person that I would say that is good to study, and I used to teach a lot of stuff, not based off of it, but inspired by some aspect of an individual called Dan Winters. Dan Winters is a very, very intelligent individual. He's more so along the lines of the reptilian bloodline and stuff like that, but his science is second to none. Sometimes he gets into the dodecahedron, he gets into so many different geometric shapes and the frequencies of it, but he has a lot of good information. So anybody that's looking to get, I would say started, because Dan Winters say a lot of words that you probably have to look up. But if you're disciplined enough to want to utilize some of the stuff, Dan Winters is good. But I would actually tell you, if you want to do heavy in metaphysics, pick up my third book. It's called The Queen's Sacrifice. And I promise you, The Queen's Sacrifice, if you skip the introduction, I say skip the introduction because the introduction is kind of long. But if you skip the introduction, you'll get into a book that you can't put down. It got so much crammed in it. It's called The Queen's Sacrifice, and if you can't get it, I will order it. If they don't let you, because sometimes something wrong with the site. But if you can't get it directly, I'll order it and get it to you, man. You just let me know. The Queen's Sacrifice, for everybody that's on the phone that's in the metaphysics, that's something that I dug up deep. The brother also said Parashat Noah, which is actually good. It's real good. But I think the Queen's Sacrifice is more of quantum physics, and it's more of a quantum physics than a neuroscience or symbiotic knowledge that I put in Parashat Noah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, brother, I would most definitely would love to build with you and get a chance to build a good rapport with you as well, man, because that's information that I really feel that's very vital to this community, and not just this community, but all of humanity. And because one thing is Israelites, we are supposed to be available to our people, but we're also to be a light to the nations. So most definitely, man, this stuff is powerful. The things you have done are very powerful. So what I'll do, if you don't mind, brother, I'll reach out to you in the messenger, and we'll just go from there.
Definitely, King, and I'm here and I'm going to respond. Shalom, King.
Much love.
All right, that's Brother B.A. right there. We appreciate my brother for the man up segment. We have one more caller for you, and after that, I'm going to let Nasi Yashuv-EL go. We have 720-352. You're live.
Shalom. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah,
you're loud and clear. Yep.
Yeah, this is Davon again. I was just listening to that breakdown of Samson. I wanted to touch on. We had a show on Monday about the Messianic divide, talking about the differences between messiahs and saviors, and we see that in Judges, Samson is definitely a type of a savior, and he was anointed with the Spirit of the Most High. But as you brought out, just because you have that anointing, you still can be a sinner, you still could be fallible, or even a little bit crazy, as you broke down Samson's psyche, arrogant, you know what I mean, looking at the enemy's women. Like, just because you got the Spirit of the Most High, you're still human. And we, what I'm saying, it's something that we had talked about at the beginning of, in the show on Monday, about the differences between saviors and messiahs, and how, some people view messiahs as just flawless people, but, there's definitely evidence in the scriptures that they're not synonymous with, saviors and anointed people is two different words. And we see that definitely brought out with Samson with his psyche. And I think it was good for you to go into the depth of, just because you got the Spirit of the Most High on you, you still a man, you still human, you still got desires, and, you still can make mistakes. So, because we're talking about the concept of what exactly is a job description of a Messiah and a Savior. And we see Samson was in one of those roles, but he definitely was still a man and had problems. So I just wanted to bring that out. Thanks again. Shalom, Sal. Shalom, Nasi. Shalom to the audience.
Shalom. And I wanted to touch on something because even in your iniquity, you're still a part of the Most High's design. And whether it's to bring a cause or something or bring something to a life, even your mistakes in life. And I learned that when I was working this week and I was building my earth back home, I made a lot of mistakes. And a lot of mistakes set me back. But when the mistakes came crumbling down, they actually were beneficial for me or beneficial to the cause of the earth bag in the future. So a lot of times, because we make these mistakes, or just because his sole purpose was to be destructive. So you can be a person that is blessed of God and can deliver the people, but God can still get his message through you, even if you're ignorant, because he can use you to destroy the people while you're destroying yourself. So sometimes we have to consciously have the idea or the mindset, what do you want to be? Do you want to bring forth deliverance while preserving yourself, or bring forth destruction by destroying yourself? You can be whatever God needs you to be at the time, because we're all replaceable. So now he brought deliverance, but he didn't bring deliverance in the aspect of which he thought. He wouldn't want to die. Nobody want to fall under a building with Philistines. And this is the thing that we have to realize in our lives, because we're adding up to our own pompousness, and sometimes we feel a sense of entitlement. Because we're Israelites, we feel entitled, and we feel that we're leaders, and we want to do whatever. But the title of leadership has a death penalty hanging over it. And you see that with the children of Aharon or Aaron, because Aaron had two children, Nadab and Abihu, and on the first day of the inauguration of the temple, they were annihilated by fire from the heavens while people were watching, because God's work is very sensitive to his commands. So this is imperative to all those who want the showtime, who want the highlights, who want to be all of this, that you are in a system that represents God. And if you infringe on it in a way, a death penalty is lingering over your head. So this is why you see me trying in many areas to be modest and humble when I present stuff to my people, the Israelite people, because I don't want to come across as pompous or arrogant, because in that arrogance, there could be a sense of entitlement that is resonating inside of me that destroys my character. I could be like, I did this, I debated this person, I did this, and my history speaks for itself for who I was, but that's a bunch of mumbo. So God does not care about none of that. You are a man, a humble servant of God, and remain humble, because once you break character, once you feel that sense of entitlement, like we spoke about Nadab and Abihu, because Abihu names mean he is my father. So if you know anything about childhood celebrities or children that are children of celebrities, they feel that because he's my father, they're entitled. So there comes that negative spirit of Nadab, which means that it's generous, that people have to treat you generously because your brother says he is his father and y'all entitled. So y'all feel that certain things are supposed to be given to you. You feel a certain level of respect. But in truth, our walk and what we do is all about the Most High. We humbly have to walk in his light and his presence forever.
I completely agree, and I'm glad you brought that out, because that's another example of, even though they were anointed or messiahs under Aaron, they still were human, still were fallible, still subject to problems, and not the put on a pedestal of just because you're a messiah expected to be perfect. So thanks for bringing that out again, because some messiahs were actually anointed to kill, like in the Book of Kings, and these specific messiahs were anointed to do specific jobs. And like you said, Samson actually had to, die himself to try to redeem himself for what he did for disobeying the Most High. So great knowledge, great show, man. Appreciate you. All right, shalom.
One more thing, King. I wanted to share this with you. Samson also has a deeper implication that most people do not understand. If you get to the levels, and like I said, most of the stuff that I say is not something that y'all look up on the internet. It's intuitive knowledge. So if you can type this in, you won't find it. But the understanding of Samson also represents, because we as above, so below, right? So Samson represents the solar energy. He represents solar energy, thus representing the 7 locks and the 7 different lights of the sun, right? But if you look at it, when he captured 300 foxes, he set torches between their tails and they burned up the crops in the field. where if you look at the symbolism of a fox represents solar flares. So Samson, the sun or the sun heat, burned up the crops. So now when he sees a lion, he eats the honey out of the carcass. Now in it, he says a riddle. But this riddle has never been answered until this day. And I'm not saying that I'm so great because I put together the riddle, but think about this, King, and let it sit on you. The sun burns up most of its crops during the time of Leo, the lion. So when the sun takes away most of its minerals from the crops during the time of Leo, it's suggested that you eat honey because honey has all the essential nutrients that the human body needs in order to survive, to replace the nutrients that were burned up by Samson or burned up by the sun.
Is that why Israel was told to go to the land of milk and honey? Is that playing a part into it?
Excellent. It plays a part, King. Like, you see how you connected that, we connected that. That's what we are. We biblical scientists, King. This is laboratories of brothers that should be together thinking about and allowing one mind to connect with another mind in order to influence that mind, and that mind takes it to another level. And this is what Israel should be doing.
Beautiful.
Hallelujah.
Beautiful. Hallelujah.
All right, family. Once again, we appreciate everybody that's calling in. And, it's going to be in the archives. So if you missed anything on the show, just check out the archives. We, of course, we're in iTunes in the podcast section, on Blog Talk Radio. Once the show is over, you can check it out. And, of course, we're going to be on YouTube. So check out the archives, support the brand, subscribe, make your comments. But, of course, keep it clean, keep it professional. All right, Nasi Yashuv-EL, we're going to let you go. Any last things you want to do to the family?
I just humbly thank everybody that came on the show and asked questions, and all the brothers. I see a new team of brothers coming up, and I definitely want to work with everybody that I spoke to today. And I'm just so happy that God still has it where I can be a servant to Him and still be a tool utilized by our people. And I thank the Creator, and I humbly ask Him to forgive me for all my sins and iniquities and all the things that I have done in my power to take advantage of power. And I ask the Almighty to forgive me humbly. And I ask for Him to forgive everybody that came on this phone that has a genuine heart, because we are all sinners. And in truth, we are looking for that perfect balance. And sometimes we're looking for ourselves and recreating ourselves. And we ask the Most High to understand that we are hurting inside. And sometimes we look for things to soothe our pain. And sometimes it's not always the right thing. And we pray that the Most High forgive His people and all of those people that are insecure and using platforms to fill their ego. We ask the Most High to find a place of solace for these people so they can feel comfortable with themselves and who they are, and not looking for affirmation from outside themselves. So I thank the Heavenly Father. I thank you, Sire Showtime, for all you have ever done, brother, and all the works you have done, and staying loyal to your platform and doing what you got to do. I thank God for you, and I thank God for all the brothers and sisters of Israel, and even those that I don't agree with, because they are a level of and the stepping stone into the truth. So even though we don't agree with certain groups, they still are bringing people into some form of truth that later they may elevate from. So we have to look at all of this as universal and divine understanding. And I thank you, brother, and I thank God first and foremost. Hallelujah.